My name is Ella. I'm 27 now, but for as long as I can remember, I've been labeled the disappointment. My father is a retired colonel, a man of steel who measures worth by medals and obedience. My mother? A quiet shadow behind him, soft-spoken but always reinforcing his authority. I wasn't the daughter they wanted. I was the dreamer, the reader, the one who asked why too often. My father hated that word. To him, questioning meant weakness, and weakness was unacceptable. Growing up, my older brother Aaron was the golden child. He followed in Dad's footsteps, cadet at 17, officer at 21, decorated before he turned 25. Family gatherings revolved around him, his achievements shining like trophies while I was left to the side, the civilian with wasted potential. But what no one knew, not even Aaron, was that I had chosen a different path. While they thought I was just another lawyer struggling in some dusty office, I had quietly joined a military legal corps program. It was tough, brutal even, but I excelled, not because I wanted to please my father, but because I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't weak. Still, I kept it hidden. My promotions, my commendations, my grueling field cases, all buried under the facade of being ordinary Ella, because I knew the day I revealed the truth would either make him proud or destroy what little we had left. And I wasn't ready for either. The cracks deepened the night of Aaron's engagement party. The whole house sparkled, lights strung across the lawn, polished uniforms everywhere, and Dad beaming like the king of the world. I showed up in a simple dress, hair down, no medals, no fuss. My father's eyes swept over me once and dismissed me just as quickly. At least you're on time, he muttered, already turning back to his guests. At the dinner table, relatives praised Aaron endlessly. Every toast was for him, his bravery, his service, his legacy. When someone asked what I was doing these days, Dad cut in before I could answer. "She's still figuring herself out," he said with a tight smile. The table laughed politely, as if I were some harmless failure. My best friend, Maya, leaned over and whispered, "Why do you let him do this? They don't even know who you are." I forced a smile, but my chest was on fire. Because she was right. None of them knew the truth, that I had already outranked officers twice Aaron's age, that I had stars waiting for me on my shoulder. But sitting there, invisible in my own family, I realized something. The day they did find out, it wouldn't just be a reveal. It would be a reckoning. The first spark came a few weeks after Aaron's engagement. My father called me into his study, a room that always smelled of old books, whiskey, and the weight of his authority. He didn't offer me a seat. He just stood behind his desk, arms folded, eyes sharp. "Ella," he began, "it's time you start contributing to this family. Aaron will soon take on greater responsibilities, and I can't have you floating around aimlessly." "Floating?" I repeated, my pulse quickening. "You have no husband, no real career worth mentioning. Do you even realize how embarrassing it is when people ask what you do?" I clenched my jaw. He had no idea who I really was, no idea the sacrifices I'd made, the cases I'd fought, the soldiers I'd defended in brutal courts where truth was life or death. But instead of confessing, I said nothing. That silence seemed to infuriate him. He slammed his hand on the desk. "You are a disgrace, Ella, a daughter with no honor." The words cut deeper than he knew, and in that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to stay silent forever. One day, he would see the truth, and when he did, it would break his certainty like glass. It didn't take long for the storm to build. My father started dropping sharper comments at family dinners. "Some people live off others' glory," he'd say, eyes cutting toward me. Relatives nodded, whispering, their pity like poison in the air. Aaron didn't defend me. He never did. In his eyes, I wasn't competition, I was background noise. But Maya saw the cracks forming in me. One night, after yet another dinner where I'd been mocked for not settling down, she grabbed my hand. "Ella, why are you hiding? Why do you let him define you when you've already surpassed his expectations 100 times over?" I shook my head. "You don't get it. If I tell him, if I show him, it'll either destroy him or he'll twist it into something I don't want." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Or it will finally set you free." That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. For years, I had built myself in silence. proving my worth in shadows. But maybe it was time to step into the light. Not to win his approval, no. But to reclaim my voice. 2 days after that confrontation, I sat in my office staring at the insignia tucked inside my drawer. A pair of polished stars, heavy with meaning. They weren't just metal, they were the weight of years of sacrifice. Endless nights, scars I carried silently. Every time I held them, I thought about the day I'd finally wear them on my shoulder. The day the world would stop underestimating me. But a part of me dreaded it too, because it meant my father would have no choice but to see me for what I was, not his failed daughter, not his disgrace, but his equal. That evening, Maya dropped by. She found me staring at the insignia and shook her head. Ella, do you realize how insane this is? You're sitting here with the proof of everything you've accomplished, while your father tramples over you like you're nothing. I bit my lip. If I reveal it, Maya, it'll destroy whatever little thread of peace is left. Peace? She scoffed. That's not peace, that's submission. Her words echoed long after she left. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of the fallout, I was curious about what it would look like when the balance of power finally shifted. The explosion came sooner than I expected. We were at a family gathering, another dinner in Aaron's honor. The guests were high-ranking officers, decorated men and women who had no idea I was one of them, albeit in a different branch. My father, as usual, turned the conversation toward Aaron's bright future. Then one of the officers glanced at me and asked, "And what about you, Ella? What do you do?" I opened my mouth, but my father cut in with a dismissive laugh. "She works in some legal office, civilian matters, nothing to mention here." The table chuckled politely. That was it. The dam broke. My chest burned, my throat ached, but my voice came out sharp and steady. "Actually, I serve too. Military Legal Corps. Rank, Major. Stars pending." The room went silent. Forks froze midair. Aaron blinked. My father's face turned ashen, his jaw clenching so tightly I thought his teeth might crack. For once, I didn't lower my eyes. I let the silence stretch, let the weight of my words settle like thunder in the room. And in that silence, I realized this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a reckoning. After that dinner, the air in the house was toxic. My father didn't speak to me for 3 days. When he finally did, his voice was like ice. "You humiliated me," he spat, pacing the living room like a caged animal. "In front of my peers, you blindsided me." I stood my ground. "No, I told the truth. You humiliated yourself by pretending I was nothing." His eyes narrowed, his face red with fury. "You don't understand the damage you've done. People will think I kept my own daughter a secret out of shame. Do you realize what that means for me?" I almost laughed. For me, that was all it ever was, his pride, his reputation, his name. Never my worth, never my voice. Aaron tried to mediate, but it was half-hearted. He muttered something about family unity, but his eyes betrayed him. He wasn't proud of me. He was threatened. For the first time, his spotlight had competition, and he didn't know how to handle it. That night, I sat alone in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Maya's voice echoed in my head, "That's not peace, that's submission." I wasn't going back. Not this time. The next family gathering was colder. Conversations faltered around me. Relatives whispered behind napkins, their eyes darting between me and my father. I had disrupted the hierarchy, and no one knew how to act anymore. My mother pulled me aside, her voice trembling. "Ella, please, couldn't you have stayed quiet? Your father, he feels betrayed." "Betrayed?" I repeated, disbelief choking me. All I did was tell the truth. For once in my life, I didn't let him bury me. Her eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing more. It was the silence of someone who had chosen survival over truth for too many years. Later that night, Aaron confronted me. "Why couldn't you just let me have this? You always had to be different. But now, you're in my territory. Do you get that? Dad will never forgive you." I stared at him, my heart breaking and hardening all at once. Then let him hate me. I'd rather stand in the light alone than shrink in his shadow forever. And with that, I walked away from both of them, my father seething, my brother wounded, my mother silent. The fracture was complete. And though it hurt, I felt something I hadn't in years. Freedom. The final blow came at Aaron's promotion ceremony. The hall was filled with officers, dignitaries, and family, every eye shining with pride for him. My father stood tall beside him, glowing like a man who had built a dynasty. I sat quietly in the back, my uniform beneath a dark coat, unrecognized, unseen, until the commanding officer announced. Alongside Captain Aaron's promotion, we recognize Major Ella Khan for her exceptional service in the military legal corps. Gasps rippled through the room. I stood, shedding the coat, my stars gleaming under the lights. For a heartbeat, the entire hall was silent. Then the applause began, slow, hesitant, then thunderous. My father's smile faltered, his face pale as stone. Aaron looked like he'd swallowed glass. And for once, I wasn't invisible, I was undeniable. After the ceremony, my father approached me, his jaw tight, his voice low. You went behind my back. You embarrassed me again. I held his gaze. No, father, I made my own name. You just never cared to see it. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time in my life, he had no words strong enough to chain me. And that silence was my victory. In the weeks that followed, things changed, subtly, painfully, but inevitably. My father spoke less to me, Aaron avoided me, and my mother floated in her quiet sorrow. The family I once begged approval from was fractured, maybe beyond repair. But for me, life began. I poured myself into my work, into cases that mattered, into soldiers who needed a voice. My rank wasn't just decoration, it was proof that I had built myself despite every sneer, every dismissal, every cruel word my father threw at me. Maya asked me once if I wished my father had clapped for me that day. I thought about it long and hard. No, I told her, because his approval was never the measure of my worth. I just needed to stop believing it was. Here's what I learned: family can fail you, they can belittle you, dismiss you, even betray you, but their blindness doesn't erase your light. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is step into that light, even if it means stepping away from them. So if anyone out there feels small, invisible, or unloved, remember this: you don't need their validation to be valuable. The stars on your shoulder, the scars on your heart, the strength in your voice, they're yours, and no one can take them away. And me? I'll never be invisible again.